Well, that's a bummer.
Hello. Welcome to Goalie Interference. We're here.
Hi.
It's
This
the
is
inaugural show. This is here. We are excited. I am, as always, I'm Ken from SinBin, and you are the one, the only, Mike McKenna. When you think of your title, do you lead with NHL goalie? Do you lead with AHL journeyman? I would imagine NHL goalie would be first. VGK analyst. What do you, the daily face-off contributor?
Yeah, well, I think that my official title now has to be Daily Faceoff contributor, Mike McKenna of Daily Faceoff. But I think journeyman, suitcase, those things all apply very well to me. I mean, I have a suitcase tattooed on my leg. It has a lot to do with my career, but I think 14-year pro, that's probably about the best description, with a lot of experience in a couple of different leagues and all over North America. And yeah, now playing the media game with you guys. So
and you have all your jerseys, next to you. See, I have all tchotchkes and garbage and all this.
Check it
You have
out.
jerseys, you have helmets. There we go. Get that baby in the background.
Look at that. Make it nice
There
and
it is.
festive. Yeah.
That jersey's so much better than the gold one. God, I mean, than the gray one. The gray ones they wore last night. The gold one's so much better. Oh, we lost Mike there. Well, welcome to live TV. So here's some of the things that we're going to get into today here on Goalie Interference. We're going to get to have Mike talk a little bit about Lehner's performance. We will talk a lot more about the game last night. We will dive into the Morgan Geekie controversy. What an absolute mess that was. I still don't even know what to make of it. Mike's got a seemingly pretty interesting opinion on that. I think he wants to cast it to the side a bit, but we will happen to see what goes on with that when he decides to talk about that. And I have a couple of other things that I want to touch on about kind of the cap gymnastics, where they're headed in the future in that department, maybe losing Patrick Brown, these types of things. We'll get going on that. But I'll first just start out by saying that this show and all of the Goalie Interference shows are brought to you by the Jimerson Law Firm. And we thank the Jimerson Law Firm and the Jimersons for hooking us up, making this happen, getting Mike on staff at SinBin, and making this come to life for us. So Mike is back. There we go. We lost you there for a second.
Yeah, let's go to the backup plan here. I am not sure what happened. That is the first internet drop of the day. So this is why technology is great, because we have redundancy. If something goes wrong.
At 7:03. Turn that baby sideways.
There
we go.
If something goes wrong, you just get the redundancy out. You get the secondary one, and you go for it. So,
all right. So let's start with last night's game. Obviously, exciting game. I thought one of the more fun games we've seen at T-Mobile Arena outside of the playoff games. Obviously, that Colorado series was amazing, but that game was up and down. It was fast. It was fun. It was aggressive from both sides. Just give me your general sense of like how you thought the Golden Knights played, because to me, there was a lot of Seattle kind of allowing them some of these opportunities. But as the game went on, it got crisper and crisper, and then Vegas scores the big goal right afterwards. But what's your general sense of what happened?
Yeah, it was a slow start for the Golden Knights. I mean, right after the gate, Kraken had some great opportunities. Hit a crossbar. Robin Lehner has to make a couple saves. It took a while for the Golden Knights to find their legs, and it's not terribly surprising when you think about the first game of the year and a brand new franchise in Seattle that's trying to make a name for themselves. They had all sorts of turmoil leading up with COVID protocol, players in and out, not knowing, is Jared McCann going to be in the lineup amongst other players? And they just had a lot going on. And sometimes when that happens, you end up playing pretty carefree. And that's what Seattle looked like. And I don't think Vegas was particularly on their heels or anything. It just wasn't clicking at the very start. And then once they got an opportunity, and of course they scored, and that's a huge factor. And we've seen this time and time again with Vegas. Once you get a little bit of momentum going and you get the crowd, it's a different animal in that building. And, they were lucky to get out of the first leading 2-0, I thought.
So let's just start with like the first 30 seconds of the game. If one of those pucks goes in, or if they score on that power play, like how much different of a game do you think we're actually looking at? Because to me, I mean, I guess I'll just throw it out there. I still think Vegas scores 3 awfully quickly because the first 5 times Seattle was in their own zone, what a nightmare it was. So I feel like, and like Pete had talked about that he thought, well, it's a good thing we didn't kind of take the air out of the building. I think it would have been okay. And that's why, to me, kind of absorbing that punch is fine. I'm not all that concerned about it. And even though that period kind of sucked, I'm okay with it. You agree?
Oh, they won the game. That's what you always look at the end. And I know that's the simplified answer. That's the player answer. But the Golden Knights really are a team, especially in the regular season, that having a period like that's not going to phase them. And I know there's been turnover. There's still some players that Marc-Andre Fleury's not there. Ryan Reeves isn't there. Nick Holden isn't there. But Nick Holden also wasn't playing a regular role for the team last year. You can kind of filter on down that you've got the same club that still has that same mindset of knowing that even if they get down a goal or two, they can come back no problem. So I think them getting out to the lead helped for sure. But to me, it was really just how they played in the second period. They started to take the pace of play to Seattle. They generated some power play time, which even though they didn't score on it, which is problematic, Ken, they did generate some shots and got some momentum out of it.
You were okay with the power plays?
I was okay that it generated shots and it got them some momentum.
Is that where the bar?
That's what I'm telling you. That's not the job. That's not the job of a power play. I get that. There's things that I still don't like about it. I don't think they're getting the middle of the ice quick enough. I don't think there's a distributor. And that's the hardest thing is that the Golden Knights don't have somebody that can rip seams, that can sauce passes back and forth just yet.
Like, why can't Mark Stone do that? Why can't Evgeny Dodonov do that? Like, even the quarterbacks with Theodore Pietrangelo, like the talent should be there, no?
The talent is there for what the talent pool is for those players. Dadonov's a shooter. Okay, that's what he does best. Get open in the middle of the ice.
Call him Dodonov. Sorry.
Dodonov. I apologize. I've been in Florida, Ottawa. So the puck goes low to high to him. You get him the puck, you let him hammer it. Mark Stone is fantastic on the rush at creating lanes, at delays, at getting the puck through the neutral zone and making seams that don't exist. But it's not from a static standpoint. You look at what like Patrick Kane can do. That guy he's a wizard with it. And it's because his feet will move at the same speed as his hands when he's in the zone and he can create those lanes. And that's not something that Mark Stone has in his skill set. His feet aren't as fast as his hands and his brain. His brain's as fast as anybody's. His processor's fantastic. Yeah. So really the Golden Knights power play is still predictable. Teams know what to do with it. Even though they're trying to add layers, add wrinkles to it, it's going to Max Pacioretty. And you're relying on Max Pacioretty to make a perfect shot. It's going to happen sometimes, but it's not going to happen at the volume you need because goalies know to sit on it. They know to get there. You need that added layer of, can we get a high tip? Can we get players to bite on Pacioretty, get it down low, get it up, back up high, and create some different looks? It's a work in progress. It's the first game of the year. I could see they were trying things, but I do think the Golden Knights are still missing that elite puck distributor that they really need to get the power play at the level that's going to be efficient in the NHL.
As a goalie against the Golden Knights power play, when you kind of look at the style of play that they're looking to use when they get into the zone, it's basically funnel it around the umbrella. They're willing to go underneath the goal from time to time, and they like that little shovel around the front of the crease play. But for the most part, it's how can we quickly get the puck from one side of the ice to the other side of the ice and hit the trigger man, which is usually Martinez or Pacioretty. To me, as a goalie, and I'm not, you would probably have a little bit more knowledge of me. If they put me in the goal, I don't know what would happen. Would be a nightmare.
I don't think anybody wants to see that, Ken.
Well, I definitely don't.
I don't want to see that. I don't want to see
I'm already injured thinking about it. But just sitting back there, I feel like it would be obvious what they're trying to do. And when a power play is obvious, you should be able to get on your angle and stop them.
When it's been pre-scouted that far in advance, you can. And the pre-knowledge is just so important. If a goalie can get there, get square, get their feet set in advance of a shot, they have a great chance at making that save in the National Hockey League. If you get them moving, if you get that going laterally, if you get that play to the middle, it's not about creating rebounds. It's about creating quick plays and not letting the goalie get their feet set. If that happens, you've got a better opportunity. And that's where I think you're going to get those odd goals where Martinez just blasts a one-timer, where Pacioretty gets it on his blade, and it's on and off, and it's in the net. But you want to have a foil to that. You want it to be on the other side too. I think about, man, look at the Capitals. And when they're healthy, you get Backstrom, who's got the puck on his blade. He's on his proper wing.
Yep.
And he wants to go to Ovechkin. And teams know it.
Yep.
So they shade heavy to Ovechkin. Well, what happens? Then John Carlson at the point pounds one down your throat 105 miles an hour.
With Oshie standing in front.
With Oshie standing in front of the net. And you don't have to say this to Golden Knights fans because they saw it firsthand.
Don't remind me.
Exactly. So I don't need to go down that hole, but it is a great example of needing to have dual threats. You need to have more than one trigger. And to me, for the life of me, I can't understand how the Golden Knights haven't been able to figure out a way to utilize Theodore and Pacioretty as dual threats.
Yes.
And I do think that part of that is because Theodore still isn't a big one-timer guy to the same extent of like a John Carlson is in Washington or even Yossi, the way he skates. Theodore's really a get-it-through type of guy. He gets it on his blade. He finds lanes. He's one of the best in the world at that. But that's a unique skill set. You need somebody up top that can mash it. Pietrangelo can. Pietrangelo can hammer the one-timer. But who's going to go on the wing on the other side to create that? I've wanted to see Marchessault have that opportunity. I'd love to see him have the one-timer. And he hasn't had that puck on his blade off. And I'd love to see Petro and Marshy.
Pietrangelo the chance. Like, how many times have you seen Pietrangelo just hammer one on the power play? Like, it does happen. And I guess that's the one part of his game that, like, I don't particularly love is I feel like the accuracy's not there. Like when you watch some of these other guys that just hammer these shots from the top of the point or from the point there, from the blue line, high slot, there's a little bit more accuracy, and that puck has to be on goal. If you miss it, you're probably looking at that clearing the zone. And to me, that's why I think they don't do it as often as maybe they should. I think his accuracy is a bit of a problem. You agree with that?
I don't know about accuracy for him.
No?
I think it's more or less just, they're not built to get the puck high to the middle and unleash the thing. They want to go to the flanks if they can. Now they want to go down low to up high, but that hasn't worked yet, and that's where you're looking for that added wrinkle and layer with Patrick and Dadonov to try to get it low, high, and be different with it. I just find it to be an exercise in futility when you're trying to force things that don't work.
Yeah.
I think sometimes you have to take another look at who you have in your lineup and say, okay, this is who we have. Let's run with it. But you got to create motion. You got to get people moving around. And I know we're belaboring the power play at this point, but we should because it's a real concern. It's been completely gone for 2 years in playoffs and hasn't been great in the regular season either.
It's the reason they weren't in the Stanley Cup final last year. It's that simple.
And they
15%.
It is 15%.
15%. You're in the Cup final,
and they were a rush team.
Right. Well, they're going to continue being that.
Sure. And now they want to be an even better rush team.
Which would be nice.
How good of a rush team can you be if you were already one of the top 3 rush teams in the league?
Do what you're good at.
Do what you're good at, but at what cost? Now do you start giving up more the other direction?
You did last night.
Right. And that's a slippery slope. Like to me, that just says we didn't acquire the players necessary for us to be able to live on things other than the rush. So now we have to be even better at the rush. That's what it seems like.
I am legitimately nervous that your arm is going to fall off. So here's what we're going to do. You're going to reload your computer right now, and I'm going to tell everyone that this show is brought to you by Jimerson. So get out of here, reload your computer up, and I'm going to read an ad read for Jimerson, the reason why this show is here. So I'm going to take him off of there, and I will tell you that this show is brought to you by the Jimerson Law Firm. The Jimerson Law Firm is one of Las Vegas's preeminent law firms. I remember the word preeminent, specializing in high-stakes business, civil, and family litigation. When winning matters, and we know winning absolutely matters, the Golden Knights 1-0, where's my camera? 1-0, first place in the entire league. President's Trophy tied. I'm not following what's actually going on in some of these games because I was preparing for this. So that is where we are. That is where the Golden Knights are. And thank you to the Jimerson Law Firm for sponsoring every single one of these shows, for making it happen so that we can have Mike McKenna join us every single week. Again, we're going to be doing these every single week at 7:30 or 7 o'clock on Wednesdays. The Golden Knights have, I think it's like 7 Wednesday games this season. When that is the case, we're switching the show to Thursday. So If there's a Wednesday game, you don't have to worry about it. We will do it on Thursday. So join us next week, and for the rest of this, we're looking to go like an hour. Look at that. Look how nice you look without your arm dying off the side of the camera. I was getting so nervous. I could see the arm. Brutal. Pro athlete, though.
Do you understand the level of endurance that took?
I know.
I've been on this computer all day long. I think I've had about 6 Zoom calls. I just got off one with a youth hockey coaching clinic. And sure enough, when we're having our first live show, it decides to take a dump on us. And here we are. So
why wouldn't it? Why wouldn't it do that?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about Robin Lehner.
Okay. We got plenty to talk about.
All right. So 3 goals. The last one's the one that I really want to key in on first. And we'll get into the madness that happened after the last one and the sheath and the twirl and the stare. We'll get into that. But let's start with the goal itself. It's a broken play. Puck kind of flutters out into the neutral zone. It's a one-on-one break. He clearly doesn't want to shoot the puck. You can see his head on the swivel. You can see him looking back, trying to find a trailer. And he decides, well, I got nothing to do here. Let me just rip one. Ridiculously good shot. But to me, just right off the bat, my first thought is, that can't go in, right?
Well, you don't want it to. And that's the simple answer.
Damn goalie union.
And I'll tell you what, it shouldn't. And here's the reason why. And I don't have the screen share for it right now, but if you go back and you look at it and you look at it frame by frame, if you can take Robin Lehner's body from the time Geekie presents the puck to the time that he shoots the puck, it changes angle 3-4 feet. And it's similar to what Alex Tuck has done to goaltenders before, but Tuck usually does it in motion towards the net and closer. And what happens is the goalies don't adjust in time to stay square and stay on angle. And that's what happened to Robin Lehner. His feet got set when Geekie presented the puck. And then as it moved forward and Geekie actually lost angle, Lehner didn't compensate and it gave up short side. And when that shot came, Geekie actually put it right over his shoulder as opposed to in the corner. Whether that's on purpose or not, I don't know. You're trying to get rid of the puck as quick as you can from that angle. It's a great shot because it's right under the bar. Yeah. You know, it may not be 100% where he wanted to put it, but Lehner actually abandoned space to try to get his glove up to get on it. And it gave away that space short side. It doesn't matter whether the puck goes in short or far side. This is something that's a refrain. You hear this throughout hockey commentating, like you can't get beat short side ever. Okay, well, okay, I'll just give up goals far side. How are you going to like that? It doesn't
matter.
Love
it. They're going to call you horrible, and then you're going to get claimed on waivers, and then you're going to have all these jerseys to your left.
And I've been there, done that. So it wasn't because of short side goals. It was because of all the goals that I had.
Stupid red light.
That's right. But he's off his angle. He doesn't adjust in time. He abandoned space when the shot came. You're right. That puck shouldn't go in. It should be if he plays it properly with his skating, it should hit him on the shoulder actually, and be simple. But
further out, right?
Well, he doesn't need to be any further out of the net at all. He just has to be on angle. Simple as that. If he's further out of his net, that creates a whole nother set of problems that we could go into. You don't have to move forward to take away space. If he actually moved forward, it would have made it more difficult for him to stay on angle because he would have had to have skated even further. So with the size Robin Lehner has and the way he presents big in the net, he just has to be at the top of the crease in the paint. He doesn't have to leave the blue paint to be able to be square and take up space and be able to react in time. The one I took issue with was the second goal, McCann's.
Okay.
I thought that goal, at first glance, you wouldn't think anything of it because it's a pass to the middle, it's broken, it comes in. But there's a key to this. And the key is that as the Seattle Kraken broke into the zone, the puck comes to center ice, and then it kicks over to a left-handed player down the wing. And I can't remember who it is. I had a hard time yesterday because I haven't seen these numbers on these jerseys.
I know.
And I was struggling to keep up with that. I was watching the Rangers and Washington earlier, and I was like, bang, oh yeah, there's Hagelin. Okay, there's Carlson. Like, I know all these numbers.
It's either Eberle or Schwartz.
Yeah. So the puck goes to the middle of the ice, and it kicks over to Robin Lehner's left to a left-handed player who has to reach for it. That player was not in a shooting position whatsoever. On the backhand, reaching for it, going towards the goal line. But Robin Lehner slides. He doesn't stay on his feet. He's not patient. And when he slides over to that pass, he's still sliding when it gets thrown back to the front of the net. And because of that, because he's not on his edges, he doesn't have a chance to just make a simple rotation and fall into that shot and make a save, or to get his stick active and cut that pass off. He's caught in between because he's sliding. And as that pass tries to go, he's actually in the middle of trying to recover or stay down. He's caught in between and he's dead in the water, and all he can do is fall back on it. So I actually thought that the second goal was probably the second and third, or it's debatable which was more preventable. I know some people got on him for the first one that, you can't, you got to control that rebound.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm going to tell you right now, any shot from the top of the circles, that's hard to control.
You can't see either, right?
Yeah, I think he saw it, but like it was in kind of a funny area where you've got to trap your glove down. And if it hits on the palm of your glove, it's going right back the other direction. It's kind of hard to get it right pocket. And from 2 feet inside the top of the circle, that's a pure reaction. That's a really hard save to control. Yeah. I'll give him the pass on that. But I thought otherwise his game was fine. And that's all it needed to be. You know, he had a couple of bigger saves as the game wore on where he just did his thing. He moved to the middle. He played big, played simple. It's when Robin Lehner's patient and he stays on his edges as long as he can and he gets square to the shot in advance. That's when he's at his best. So he was fine. I thought Grubauer looked nervous at the other end. And maybe not nervous. I don't think that's the right word. I think anxious, amped up. You know, Pacioretty's first goal, Grubauer started that play almost at the hash marks.
Yeah.
On a line rush.
Way out there, yeah.
And like Grubauer plays further out of his crease than most goalies in the NHL do anymore. He's an outstanding skater, but even as good of a skater as he is, he couldn't keep up to that movement. He was still shuffling into that shot when Pacioretty let it go. He wasn't stopped.
Yeah.
And that's what gave up the far side. Great shot by Pacioretty to read that this goalie's coming across and to have the spatial awareness to notice, okay, he's going to be sliding into this. I'm going back the other direction. That's a smart goal, man. And then he gets rewarded later on when everybody thinks Nick Hague pops one, and it ended up going off Pacioretty's pants and in, you know. So.
Well, and then he's hunting the hat trick at the end.
Yeah,
like hunting the hat trick when those last minute. And luckily, the Golden Knights are so damn good when the other team's goalie's out. It's almost unfair. Like I think I'm to the point where and I'm a very early goalie pull guy. Like I'm 6 minutes, 7. I don't care if you're down 2. Let's go. Let's do it. Like I'm aggressive
Good
in
thing
that.
You ended up in Vegas.
Well, obviously, yeah, okay, maybe not 2 goals, but 3 or 4. Like I'm starting third periods with that. Well, you're on the bench. Get back on the bench, goalie. I don't need you. But you know, the Golden Knights are so good at it that I feel like we're at a point where it's like, if it's a 1-goal game, you probably should only give your top guys 45 seconds, and you probably want zone before you even pull the goalie, which is not what they did, and they failed to get in the zone 2 or 3 times. But let me go back to the third goal, the one where we're saying, you know, little off angle, puck goes by him, you get the stick twirl, you get the sheath. Now, you guys were watching on TV. I've now watched it back. You didn't get to see any of it, right? So when you heard all the madness, you're like, what are they even talking about? Am I correct? Okay, so let me explain what he actually does here. So he shoots the puck. He immediately does the twirl, and everybody's seen the twirl. But I think it was 3, not 2. It was 3 around. Then a hard sheath, and I mean
a lot of momentum. It gets momentum on the play. It's just
and then he high fives a Seattle fan along the glass. Then they celebrate like kind of around the half wall. And then I didn't see this one, but apparently on the skate back to do the handshakes, he's staring down the Golden Knights bench. Like, I understand where they're coming from, but I also, on the same point of me, is like, did you really need a 23-year-old expansion guy scoring a goal to get you fired up? Like, you just blew a 3-goal lead in the home opener. Like, where do you come down on all that?
It's silly. I think you make a good point that if that's what you need to get fired up and go down the other direction and score.
What are we doing?
I mean, really, guys? But I can tell you the player in me, though, it's real. Like, you actually see that and it pisses you off. It really does. And I know this is so silly, but we're just visceral, man. Like in general, human beings are like that. Think how
Usually men. I would say men
just,
more than women. Like,
oh, well, I don't know. I mean, I
we
think
just get
anybody who sits
angry at
down and
each
watches,
other.
I think it's anybody who sits down and watches cable news on that's who I think.
Please
I mean,
don't
like,
do that. Why are you doing that?
because everybody lives in this world of outrage at this point, and it's like I'm so mad about everything, and it's like this guy's stick twirled. We got to go get him. And listen, teams will take anything they can for fodder to get them fired up. They'll put anything on the locker room board, bulletin board materials, real stuff. And as silly as that is, if I saw it, I'd just giggle at it. But there's guys that take it way over the board. And I mean, they went back 30 seconds later and potted it. Like it's real. But then again, what if they don't? You know, like it's not even a point. And this is kind of the way it works, is that like you can say those things in this one instance that you can cherry pick that it worked. Well, how many times has there been a fight and everybody always says, "Oh, that fight turned it in our direction"? And like, there's 10 fights a year that don't change the momentum at all. And you cherry pick the one that because you scored after to say that's what changed the momentum.
Well, luckily that player's out of here. We don't have to deal with that anymore. Thank goodness.
Oh, Ken, you can't bag on Revo, man. He did.
I mean, I can.
Team, and he was a big part of it when that club went to the finals. I do agree that at times last year, he didn't look like the same player he had been previously. I do agree with that. But I also think that there wasn't a physical factor for the Golden Knights last night. They weren't as imposing of a team as they have been previously.
Carrier's out of there too. I think like you're also playing a team that in Seattle that I really don't think wanted to hit at all. I think they were really more focused of kind of getting their forecheck going, playing with speed, not screwing it up when the puck came out of their own zone. I think that was their focus throughout basically the entire first period. And then as they settled into it, they started allowing Vegas to get the zone a little bit more, and you saw the Golden Knights come into their own a bit more. But the part that I think bugs me the most about the whole Morgan Geekie thing is, okay, so it fires you up. I think I'm fine with that. I don't really understand why it's kind of brought to the attention of everyone, and in many ways from DeBoer kind of thrown right back on Morgan Geekie. Like, aren't we, like, shouldn't this be a team, the expansion team, that is aware of what it felt like to play in that game, what it felt like to be exposed, to not be wanted, to be on a group of players that are now on this new team? That's an exciting moment. Like, they just came back from a 3-goal deficit. Like, that is their Stanley Cup moment. Like, for them, I'm sure they want more, but that was a huge moment for that franchise. And I understand why the Golden Knights would be frustrated about it, but then to bring it to the media and then to say, like, some people need to learn some lessons, like, I just think it's the wrong organization to be sending that message back.
Well, let's say this. It wasn't their Stanley Cup moment. I know exactly what you mean by it. They're very excited. It's early in a franchise.
It's a big game.
Well, every game's a big game, but it's their first game. So
right.
This legitimately is one of those times where you can actually say this is a big game, because you know what is said in the locker room before every time you go out on the ice? It's a big game.
2 points. We got to get them.
Well, if every game's a big game, no game's a big game. They're all the exact same. To me, that's what I always said. I thought it was ridiculous when people would say that. But this isn't the Golden Knights from 5 years ago, 4 years ago. There's hardly anybody left. You've got the Misfits and a couple more. I mean, Tuck's not in the lineup. You know, Theodore's still back there, McNabb. But, like, DeBoer wasn't part of that. You know,
no, and he knew. He's
line, man, like, but what you're dealing with here is just hockey culture. Bottom line. You can't celebrate a goal. You can't get excited. You can't taunt the other team. It just makes me roll my eyes, man. It's like, are we so proper that we can't enjoy this sport?
Apparently.
Like, I mean, seriously, a guy scores a goal in the National Hockey League and he deserves retribution and should be run out of a building because he throws it in your face a little bit.
But Mark Stone does that stuff all the time.
But he doesn't do it in a way that's blatantly in the other team's face, right? He doesn't run it in front of the bench. His excitement is pretty exuberant in his own way. But here's the thing. If you're the other team and you see that, you're thinking the same thing. It's like, man, we got to come back and combat that. It's just not quite as visceral because it doesn't feel like it's being thrown in your face. And I think there's a huge respect level to Mark Stone across the league. I know that, man. I played with Stone. Like,
no one respects Morgan Geekie?
but he's a 23-year-old punk kid. That's what
Come
they think.
on.
That's what they think. And I've played against Geeky. The guy can rip the puck. He's a good player. He's a good kid. But it's that old hockey guy respect factor that you just can't toe the line, which is just so silly, especially considering we're in Vegas and we got Cirque du Soleil dancing around on the ice between periods, and Ursula the Sea Witch was killed on the ice before the game, and like
Phenomenal.
But you can't enjoy the game itself.
We cut a jet in half.
You've kind of got that dichotomy going, right? Where it's like we're Vegas, we're glitzy, we're everything, but once it comes down to dropping the puck, it's just dead serious. This is it, And I don't mean that in a fatalistic way at all, because we do see it in the proper way. We do see Mark Stone celebrate. We do see Alec Martinez smiling after every game, high-fiving his teammates. There's joy there. It's not all business. But I do wish hockey would loosen up in general. I just think it'd be more fun for everybody involved.
Speaking of hockey and things that the NHL can't seem to figure out, the kicked puck. Immediately when I saw it, I said, that's a kick. That's a forward propelled motion. And then in our little chat off of the game, you were saying Boucher on the broadcast said it wasn't good. You were like, you know what? That's not a kicking motion. That triggered my mind. I'm a rules guy. I actually read the rule book before every season. It's the geekiest thing ever. Sorry, Morgan Geeky. I didn't mean that.
There's hardly anybody that plays in the league that does that.
It's fun.
You and I
for
are
me.
actually alike like that. I always knew the rules.
But I remember specifically that rule and how different it is, especially if you get to watch World Juniors or when we get to the Olympics. The difference, that's 100% not a goal in international play. In the NHL, you have to be swinging your foot forward. And I thought DeBoer's point was interesting. Outside of the boot, you can't kick it. But really, spirit of the rule, they need to fix that rule. That rule's garbage the way it's written.
Well, but people want scoring, and they'll do anything to get it. And it's very rarely. I never expect goalies to get the benefit of the doubt, and we've gotten it more than I ever expected in the last couple of years with some of the crease rule, with the goalie interference rule. There's been more goals called back in recent years than I ever expected due to goalie interference. But the kicking motion, it's got to be the inside of the skate, and you got to be kicking a field goal from 50 yards for it to be not a goal, And like,
and you can't be stopping.
Stevenson deflected that puck in. He actually kind of punted it a little bit forward on the outside, but because it's the outside of his blade. And I do think though, looking at the two replays, that the replay that was from the corner looked much more dramatic than the one that was facing him. And they have access to every replay you can imagine. So I'm not sure how that would factor in.
No, but I think for the Morgan stick,
I think from the front, but I think from the front side, it just looked like it was more the redirection than it was an actual kick. And I don't like pucks going in off blade. I'd rather see a 1-0 game and see pucks go in off hockey sticks.
Yes.
Than off blades like that.
Yes.
But that's not the way the league's gone. They want to have all the scoring they can. And I mean, it's a skilled play. It's a hell of a play. But is that really what we need in this game? Do we really want to just be deflecting pucks off our feet? And I just think in that scenario, I want to see the skill of getting it onto your stick. But as the rule's written, I just thought right away, I think this one's going to count, and it did. My gut was right on it.
And it's a huge goal for the Golden Knights, because if they do not get that goal and their anger over Morgan Geeky's stick twirl is not leading to a goal and it's just leading to a good shift, like I felt like that game was heading in the wrong direction for them, basically from the end of maybe like after they scored their third goal. Like it started to you started to see them kind of wearing down, which brings me to the next topic. The reason they were wearing down, they played the game 14, or whatever, it would be 10 forwards. They played too short. And the reason they played too short is because they had to put themselves in a position where they had to bring up the highest two cap numbers that they had in Dorofeyev and Dugan. We now find out today that Dugan was hurt. I don't even know what to make of that. Whatever. Nonetheless, I can't get over how you can get in a position where you know that this is possible, and then you end up actually in a game in which you play Pavel Dorofeyev, 20-year-old, third-round pick, barely played in the AHL, and he had not played a single preseason game before, it put them immediately behind the eight ball, especially in a game when you knew you're playing against a team that's going to come at you in waves. Like, I just don't understand how the cap management can put them in that spot. You had to know that this was possible, and it seemingly they didn't.
I'm surprised too. I think there's enough people working in this game that run enough models that you don't expect these things to happen. You know, there should be some form or another to be able to carry your full load. And I do think that in this type of scenario, it was just another case of, well, you know, we managed to make it work last year. It didn't bite us. We can do this for a little bit. We'll get it figured out. It just feels like it's kicking the can.
Yep.
You know, it's just like, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. And it hasn't been figured out. And I mean, Dylan Coughlin's going up to play fourth line wing. Really? I mean, like, really? Like, what are we doing here? You know, they basically played two lines last night and they mismatched everybody else.
Yep.
That's more or less what happened. And Coughlin and Dorofeyev played 4 minutes each. You know, five
I mean, you knew that was
shifts,
coming.
maybe 6 shifts. And like, it's just funny because you know, you hear the refrain this summer from Bill Foley from the very top saying, well, we were tired in playoffs because we had to rely on guys playing minutes and blah. And like, well, are you going to play your top two lines all the time again? You know, like the D portion to me is straightened out. I love the 6 that they have. I think that's nice. And I think that, you know, you're at the point where you've got to let Nick Hague grow into this role and take it. He's got to take it, you know?
He's doing it.
And he's earned it 100%, you know? So I don't think there's any problem there, but the forwards, I mean, when Tuck comes back, that's another wrinkle.
They don't have an answer right now. Somebody has to go right now. Like the way that they went about it, and I thought they were actually going to go about it the opposite way. I thought they were actually going to waive a couple of guys and put themselves under so then they could send him up, start having it basically backwards and having all the space so that when he comes off, they have an answer. Right now, they do not have an answer. Now, my guess would be someone else will be hurt by then. Welcome to the NHL. It's probably what's going to happen. But if Tuck were to miraculously be healthy tomorrow, they're $4 million over, and they don't have enough guys that can go through. You can't just get rid of Ronbier and Lecision and whoever else. Like Carrier probably has to go on waivers. I wonder if Janmark maybe has to go on waivers. And do those guys clear? Again, like you said, it's kicking the can down the road. And the bigger issue to me is they've put themselves in a constant state of chasing cap space, and it's killing assets that are valuable. They took a Vezina Trophy goalie and made him worth nothing. They took Nate Schmidt and made him worth way less than what he was. And until they solve it, they're going to continue to put themselves in this position where they're giving away good assets for no good reason other than we have to solve this problem. And it's constantly a Band-Aid.
That's what happens when you chase. And it's a very unique position for the Golden Knights because they don't have players coming right now. Peyton Krebs is in the lineup. Peyton Krebs, by the way, yeah. And I like Peyton Krebs' game last night. There were times that I saw him do things that to me looked like he was pressing. They looked junior type of.
Yeah.
You know, he gets the puck and he tries to spin off or he tries to look for a lane. And his game looked more complicated last night than I thought it did last year when he played his cameo minutes. But regardless of that, there's just not the backfill of prospects. And part of the reason is one of them just signed a massive ticket in Montreal, Nick Suzuki. Well, the flip side is you got Max Pacioretty scoring a bunch of goals. Okay, let's take it at that. But I'm not sure that we're still a couple years away. I watched Henderson all last year. I'm not sure who's ready to make that jump. You know, I'm not sure Jack Dugan is ready to play north-south enough to play in the NHL.
Nope.
You know, and you can go down the list like this with players. I'm not sure where the organization is in terms of prospects. And it's surprising to me because I think of Washington and the Hershey connection when George McPhee ran that organization. It was a pipeline. And I know that we're still building its 5th year, but this is the point where you should start to be seeing 2, 3, 4 players in the lineup that aren't free agent signings that are draft picks. Zach Whitecloud, free agent signing, you know, and it's only me because you've got to backfill like that. You can't just keep chasing the shiny object. You know, I mean, Eichel talks were going on all summer. How was
They're not
that
gonna
going to
stop.
work? You know what I mean? And
It's not going to stop. And like, if the price comes down far enough, they'll do it.
yeah. So I agree with you that I think you can get away with this for a while, but I don't think you can do 2 seasons of it. And I do think it played a role last year at times when, I mean, they could have sewn up the President's Trophy against the Colorado Avalanche and they dressed 15 players, whatever it was. They were 2 players
15,
short.
15.
And to me, as an NHL team, that's if I were running a team, I'd consider that inexcusable to be able to dress that. But when you're trying to put the best team on the ice and you only have this many players and you're up against the cap, but it's self-imposed once again,
Right.
you got to run with it. So,
Well, and I mean, to me, it seemed like the head coach isn't really on board with how this has been going. Like, he kind of basically threw that answer, like, ask George and Kelly. I don't know.
well,
Something to do with
here's the thing. All he can do is coach who he has in the lineup.
right.
So he's, that's a pure deferral because it really is all you can do.
And he knew what he was going to do.
Yeah.
He knew he was going to play Dorofeyev 4 shifts.
Yep. Well,
I'm surprised he even got that.
I honestly, Dorofeyev, like, he had a couple games that were really nice in the
Why?
American League last year when I was watching, but there was
He can
nothing
play.
to me that screamed, this guy's ready for NHL minutes and he needs to
No,
play.
no,
It was
no.
purely, we need to protect this kid, put him in the lineup so we have enough bodies, and then we're going to get him back to Henderson so he can continue to develop because he is a nice prospect. This kid, Dorofeyev does have a nice skill set,
but he's young.
but yeah, and this wasn't the time and place, and like, you want your first game to be special too. Okay. And I know that doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things to a lot of people, but you're looking at that scenario. If you're Pavel Dorofeyev and you're going, I know what's going on here.
Yeah.
This is kind of lackluster,
And of course, it's the long history of they just can't seem to treat a Russian player like they're normal. I don't know what it is.
Well,
maybe it's coincidence. I don't know.
Listen, that's the retort you'll get. Well, we gave him a game in the NHL, and not everybody gets that. So,
yes,
that's a hard line, though, man. I'm telling you, like, Ken, I've been around this forever. That developing Russian players, developing players that are from areas where you can make a lot of money back home, there's not a lot of development. It's tough. A very, very limited window. They either if they don't make the NHL after that first year in the American League or half year in the American League, they're going back home to Russia to make money, or they're going to demand a trade. It's a difficult place to be, and that's why you really put a premium on the top end Russians when they come over, trying to make it work with them because they're a flight risk. They'll just go home.
Right. All right, let's get to our part of the show where we bring up some questions. Look at this thing. Watch this. Oh, look at this stinger. Oh, that's fantastic. This show is brought to you by the Jimerson Law Firm. First up on the board. Wait, I got to switch this and make so he can see your face. Look at that.
That's
Is
beautiful.
it the mall?
How's it going, guys?
What's up? How do you pronounce your name?
Samael.
Samael. All right. I struggle. All right. What do you got for us?
That's all good. McKenna, it's nice to see you again. I just want to say I manage a pretty big Facebook group for the Knights, and a lot of people in the Vegas Golden Knights Nation were really sad to not see you every day. So we're really happy that you're here with us in Goalie Interference so that we can have somewhere to talk to you. It's really nice to pick your brain. So it's wonderful to have you again.
Thanks, man. Well, it means a lot because, I'll be honest with you, at the end of last year during playoffs, I started to kind of mill around a little bit. The world was getting what we thought back to normal. And it was the most flattering thing on earth to have people come up and say that they appreciate what I'm doing. Cause I know I sucked when I started 2 years ago. I'd never done it before. Right. I was getting hit by pucks 2 months beforehand, and for people to appreciate it. And I was flattered, man. And when when Ken and when SinBin.vegas came to me and said, "Hey, what do you think about doing this?" I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." And the biggest reason is because I still feel that kinship with everybody in Vegas. So I appreciate those kind words. What do you got for us? Let's talk, man. We're face to face.
Let's talk. Like you can see, we're very big, goaltending Fleury fans in this house. We followed him from Pittsburgh actually, and then continued the Cinderella falling in love story with Vegas. And it's been a rocky offseason for a lot of people that fell in love with 29. So I like that you guys brought me in now because I was listening very carefully to what you guys were talking before. And my thing is with, shipping Fleury out as a fan favorite and the big shoes that he has to fill and everything, when you ship out that 7 million cap space and you bring in these pieces, do you, as somebody that's been inside and out, do you think that would be justifiable to a fan base like Vegas, what they did with that 7 million cap hit? Because I feel like, for instance, I've heard in our forums, like, hey, if front office doesn't do it this year, they need to, go, and so I believe that there's an extra pressure there, not because you had 7 mil and this is what you did, but also because you shipped someone that was so loved by the community and the hockey fans alike. How do you see that?
Well, I think it just sucks that loyalty is a dead scene. And it's true in a lot of things in life. And listen, I've been on teams that let me go after a season that I wanted to come back. I loved it there, and they went a different direction. But I think just the way that this went down hurt everybody. Straight up. Like Flower was the face of the franchise. He's the guy everybody rallied around. He made a lot of people fall in love with hockey. And I think especially as a player, when you build that relationship with a fan base, it's real, it's valid. You don't go around town smacking yourself on the back going, hey, look at me, I'm Marc-Andre. No, it's like when you see people on the street and you see people around town that really appreciate what you've done and just want to say hi, it's the most flattering thing on earth. And you build those connections and those bonds. And knowing that he wanted to retire in Vegas and signed a contract to hopefully do that, that's tough. And I wish it would have ended differently 100%. And I understand from the fan standpoint, like, it's not just about a favorite, this was more than that in Vegas, and especially being in the city and getting to know people who, frankly, were involved with Route 91 and just the tragedy, and everybody came together with the team. And Flower and Engel were the guys, man. Yep. And correct me if I'm wrong. Like, you're not a goalie here who lit the world on fire, and everybody rode his back to the finals and fell in love with the organization.
Yep.
I think that's worth rewarding. And frankly, I think the $12 million in goalies, that's manageable. They wouldn't be the only team doing that. Yeah. And I know you're looking at me funny, Ken, but look at Tampa's got 10 mil in a starter. Look at Montreal that just went to the finals with that number of, and I'm telling you, they
have 7 ELCs that are playing above their head. Like the Golden Knights don't have any.
But I'm telling you, you can make it work if you need to. And I just feel like this was done in a way that I don't think it gave fair closure to fans. I think that everybody kind of knew that this was going to happen. Like, it's just when it happened, it's ripping the Band-Aid off.
And then the way they did it.
Yeah, you guys have lost a lot of players there, but that's the nature of a team. It's what's going to happen.
Full disclosure, was Alan Walsh your agent? He was not, right? What were your thoughts on kind of what came out recently on saying that he was trying to sabotage the trade, and that's why the Golden Knights didn't communicate with Fleury and all of that? Like, where do you come down on that?
Well, that to me is pretty simple. It's an agent doing his job. He's got a client that doesn't want to leave town. You're going to do everything you can to keep that.
Was promised he would not leave town. Like I think that gets lost in translation sometimes.
Here's the thing: people can blame an agent all they want. Agents work for the player.
That's correct.
Not the team.
Agents aren't going to go out and do things that a player doesn't approve of, or they're not going to be their agent anymore.
Fleury drew the sword picture. Is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying though is that if agents do things that a player doesn't like, they're done. They're gone.
No, they're fired. Yeah.
That's it. They work for you. And the messaging is tough, man. So it was hard for me to see happen too, because I think the Golden Knights can win a Stanley Cup with Robin Lehner. I do. I believe in Robin Lehner. I think he's a damn good goalie. I think his numbers are real, or they align with who he is. But it's a tough scenario to fill that in because Marc-Andre Fleury brought intangibles to the team. He really did. He was the heartbeat of it. Players want to play for him. And not that they don't want to play for Robin, but it's just Fleury's Fleury, man. Like, you talk to anybody that played with him in Pittsburgh. You talk to anybody that played him in Vegas. They all have that same response. Said, yeah, we just want to win for the guy, man. The dude,
Yeah. So, he's a special guy. And like I've said it a number of times, it's just, you don't forget the time you met Fleury. And that goes for teammates. It's wild that that's the case, but that goes for teammates. Thanks, Samael.
That's great. Thank you.
All right, let's move on to Jeff. Jeff, what do you got for us? I think we're muted there.
He's going to get it. I know. I can feel it. It's coming. Here it is.
It's going to be good. All right, hang on. We'll switch. I don't know what's going on with Jeff. We're switching over to Jason. Jeff will get it figured out. Jason, what's up, buddy?
How you doing? Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes, we got
Jason,
you.
you're on it. You're good.
Awesome. Ken, thank you so much for all this free content over the years. It's fantastic. I couldn't, I was new to hockey, and so to have somebody like you kind of explain it in your style was awesome. So
My style is not for everyone. Let's just put it that way. Go ahead.
And
My
Mike,
style's for
Mike, I thought you were fantastic on TV. So I hope if you ever get another opportunity, please, I would love to see you on there again.
Thank you. I do.
I
missed the live TV this year for sure.
Cool. My question goes to the young guys. I watched some of the games earlier, some of the preseason ones, and even some of the ones with the kids. And it just looks like there's nothing down there. And to have Dorofeyev come up and he looked just lost, it kind of makes me nervous that any other good team in the league, any Stanley Cup contending, I mean, they have young kids on, early entry contracts contributing and actually doing well. And I wonder if can you win the way we're doing it in the long term, or will it kind of catch up to you eventually, and then you'll have to do sort of a restart with the team? So
great question.
Yeah, and it's observant. We went into a little bit earlier how this kind of works, and I think a similar comparison to this was the Rangers for a lot of years. And this is dating back, if you're new to hockey, you may not have known this time frame, but they just chased and bought every free agent and did whatever they could. And they kept making these awful draft picks that they had, and none of the draft picks panned out. And everybody was looking at the Rangers going like, at some point this has got to change. You got to do it the right way. And to me, the archetype for this is really what you look at Tampa and what they've done and how they've managed to filter players from their minor league team in Syracuse to the big club. And I mean, it's half that lineup, from Kucherov to Killorn to Yanni Gourde. They picked up Yanni Gourde out of the East Coast, the ECHL to go to the American League and then ended up in the NHL. Like, they've provided the footprint to do that. Now, what I do think there's some hope with is that having the team in Henderson, it helps. It also kind of enables the cap gymnastics of the team, which I'm not sure that's great in some ways. But I do share your sentiments. I covered Henderson last year. I was doing color on those games. And are there some nice pieces down there? Yeah. Dorofeyev, I like him. I think Caden Korzak has got a ceiling that probably looks towards the NHL. Yeah. And there's other players mixed in, but Jack Dugan's east-west all the time. He doesn't want to go to the front of the net. Like, it's got to click at a north-south fast-paced game to go there. You don't want to be making excuses why a guy can't make the NHL. You want him knocking on the door and getting there. And even Cody Glass, I mean, he went to the American League last year and his body language was terrible. He'd throw a pass in somebody's skates and they wouldn't handle it, and he'd do one of these, and it's like, man, that's not going to get you anywhere. You've got to straighten that out. And so I share the same sentiment that I think that they've got to develop, but you got to draft too. Like, where are the draft picks? They've drafted, Suzuki was a great draft. They don't have him anymore. Brandstrom's a bust in Ottawa.
It hasn't worked.
I mean, honestly, that Stone deal looks great right now in terms of what they gave up, so I'm not sure where the drafting's been, frankly, because I don't see him moving along right now. Right now, at this stage, going into your fifth year, the Golden Knights should have multiple players knocking on the door, and they've got Peyton Krebs. And
I was going to ask that. How long does it take? I guess you're drafting mostly 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds. So the expectation of when they actually reach the NHL, what that would be, like 3 years, 4 years?
Yeah, and that curve is accelerated. It used to be that you'd get drafted at 18, and man, if you made the NHL by 23, you're doing something right. You would almost have your whole entry-level contract, that full 3 years, and then maybe another 2 after that to prove it. And now the skill level is so good because players get training from such a young age. And they're working with skills coaches at 10. They're lifting weights at 11, right? So if you don't make it by your second year, maybe your third year, which you're looking at, again, 22, maybe 23, it's a tough road. So those draft picks that were, 18 years old, 2 years down the road, 3, like, we're talking 20, 21, 22 years old now. They should be knocking on the door.
Well, 2 of them are here now. Lecision and Ronbier are both here. And they're not going to do much.
No, I mean, like Lecision's game did improve last year, but if you're going to play in the NHL, you got to dominate the American Hockey League. And Jake Lecision didn't dominate the American Hockey League. Jonas Rönnbjerg is, tell you what, that guy is a hell of a defensive forward.
Forechecker, yeah.
And skates well.
Yeah.
But
he's safer than Dorofeyev in that spot. He would have made more sense last night than Dorofeyev. He couldn't do it.
Part of it, Henderson last year was littered with veteran players like Sakura and Danny O'Regan that were sick.
I love Danny O'Regan.
And O'Regan got no chance, and that guy can.
I know why.
Because he's too old. That's why.
Cap,
at 27,
they couldn't bring him up. They couldn't afford him.
Old. You're too old. That's how it works in this game.
Yeah, but you can't. You're too young in this team too. There's no sweet spot for this team. You just, if you're in the AHL, you have no chance.
I think what it comes down to though, they've got to have some solid drafts, and even at those drafts, you're still looking 3-4 years out because your deep picks. It's your first and second rounders. You expect them to make the team, and some of them haven't.
They haven't.
Right. Your depth guys, if they make the team, it's great. If they end up being impact players, even better. They're the ones that get a little more runway. But a first, second round pick, man, you need to see them in the NHL by 21, 22.
Well, and they traded their 18 first round pick. That was in the Tatar deal. The second round pick actually looks like a halfway decent player, but he's playing in Russia and he signed another contract. That's Morozov, so he's not coming anytime soon. Krebs is finally knocking on the door. But again, I don't think Krebs is on the team if they don't have the injuries, if they don't have the COVID. So I'm not sure where they're actually at. I like some of the new players that are coming up. I like Brisson. He just gets, first star in the Big Ten. That's cool on a team that's dominant. That's exciting. I think the Dean kid that they just drafted is good. I really like the defenseman that went behind him. Shaika, I think was his name. Like there's some good stuff there. But like,
it's pro though.
There's no high level talent. There's no Trevor Zegras on the way. There's no, the Quentin Byfield. And I know they didn't pick in the top 7 in the last couple of drafts, but they did have 3 picks in that draft. I still go back to that year and wonder, what were they doing taking all of those picks inside of what was definitely considered the worst draft that there was going to be? They had 3 picks in the top 15, and they took them all. And I know what they did ever since, but to decide to go ahead and take him and then trade the first round pick of the next year, and that kid actually looks like he's going to be pretty decent. But I don't know. Thanks again, Jason. We appreciate it. We'll go back to Jeff. Jeff's here. Come on, Jeff. We got this. Yes, we hear you.
Hey, all right.
That's what I'm talking about.
Pleasure to talk to you guys. Thanks, Ken, for setting this up. And Mike, what a privilege, man, to talk to you. And my question, this team, being a fan, you get frustrated with the salary cap thing, right? These guys will back up the truck for defensemen. They'll put themselves behind the 8 ball for goalies, and even they'll back up the truck for shooters. They're obviously smart hockey people, smarter than me, obviously. Is there any wisdom at all to building your team this way? Is this like the sabermetric thing, like in baseball, where you have an opener because the starting pitcher is too expensive, or centers? If you want to back up the truck for a center, it could be cost prohibitive for maybe the production you get. Mm-hmm. And I just wonder if there's any wisdom at all to what they're doing, or does it just seem like I'm just collecting all the toys I can find and whatever's available, I'm just going to get it.
Well, there's a real belief that that's what it is. When I talk to people in hockey, and we're talking to the highest levels of hockey, there's a shiny object. They're going to chase it.
Yep.
Okay, I'm not making this up. I'm not saying anything that's not said outside of in hockey circles. It's just, okay, who's the hottest commodity out there? Oh, it's Pietrangelo. We're got to get him. Oh, who's the hottest commodity this year? Oh, it's Jack Eichel. We're in.
It's Tavares, Erik Karlsson, Mark Stone, Max Pacioretty.
It's everybody. And, at some point, your impulses can outweigh your spending ability, with the cap. And I actually don't.
Cards for that?
Not in the National.
No, that's not a thing. Come on.
You only have, I think the credit limit only goes up to $65 million. But
damn it, Alan Wolf.
I actually believe the Golden Knights have a pretty balanced lineup in terms of strength, not down the middle. And in terms of asset allocation, it's pretty balanced, but it's too much. It's just too much. And again, a lot of this does come down to entry-level contracts.
Goes back to the last question.
It really does. Without having that, you're just digging a hole because you've got to pay somebody $3 million to play on the wing. Matthias Janmark, I played with him in Dallas. Matthias Janmark will work. He'll go up and down the ice. He'll be a great teammate. On Chicago, he'll chip in 25 points, 30 points. On Vegas, he might chip in 15, 20 points this year. He might do 25. But you can do that. You can get that out of somebody making less money if you're able to flesh them out of your own system. And again, there is a runway. We're still waiting for that to happen, but the drafts have to be there. And that's where I find the things hard, is that you've got all this tied up in Pietrangelo and a big deal. I mean, that's a big deal. It's more money than he was going to get in St. Louis. That's a big deal. Stone's on a big deal. And I think Stone's is worth it, 100%. But
for now.
Yeah, well, listen, this is the premium you're going to pay for these types of deals. You're never going to get anybody if you don't swing the bat. You really won't. But you don't want to swing the bat every single summer at everything that comes to the plate, right? Like I'll give you a great example. My dad played Division III baseball. Okay. And he will watch a baseball game nowadays where a guy will stand at the plate and he'll stand there with the bat on his shoulder and he'll just go like this and watch the ball go by. And my dad gets incensed by it. He's just, the bat didn't even leave his shoulder. I'm like, yeah, he's not going to take a swing. And it's like, that's sometimes what you have to do, is to show that restraint as a general manager, as a management team. We haven't seen restraint yet, and I think the frustrating part is that, there's lacking at center ice. They went into this year with 5 center icemen, and I didn't see any that's going to create better puck movement on a power play. Nolan Patrick, I played with him in Philadelphia. Nolan Patrick is a reclamation project. He could still be a very serviceable player. I don't think he's going to be a number 1 center in the league. I think that's passed him by.
I don't think he's going to be a number 2 center either.
Yeah, and we just don't know. I mean, Brett Howden, I played with him in Syracuse. I mean, this is my career, right? It seems like I played with everybody, but Howden was fine in the American League, and he's been a 4th line center on a bad team. So, where's your answer? And the answer, well, it's Eichel. Well, okay, who do we have to get rid of to get that person?
Everyone.
And that's the perils of just going after things. And
what's weird is they showed a lot of discipline, when they were negotiating with William Karlsson early on, and then
Marchessault, McNabb, Theodore. Yep.
So then Pietrangelo showed awesome player, awesome player bidding against themselves, and it's confusing. The dichotomy between the two behaviors is really confusing.
Yeah, and that was Pietrangelo's. I mean, he's a top 10 D in the world for sure. I mean, probably top 5, 6. He's never actually been in the Norris contention though, which is
gonna this year.
Well, we'll see. It's a long season, but I think him and Theodore cannibalize each other to a certain extent. But where was the dynamic of this team when they had Schmidt and Fleury versus what it is now, when it's turned into all business? You have to win. This is it. I worry about not just the players that you can tangibly look at on the ice, but the overall vibe and mood of things. And I know you can say, players always say we're having a great time, everything's good, but I can guarantee you the level of seriousness in that locker room is a whole lot different than the first year when everybody was walking in going, we're in Vegas, maybe we'll win 20 games.
Riley Smith literally said, I'm just happy we weren't 0-82 when they won game 1.
And if you want somebody that's going to speak the truth, there's 2 guys on that team that I go to, and it's Riley Smith and Alec Martinez. They both went to Miami University, by the way, which college guys, I think a lot of them. But when they talk, I listen because it's very, very intuitive to what's actually going on. And I think you can take stuff out of their words at times. I think Smith's even this year has really led on at just how serious this is. Yeah, you don't perform, you're gone.
In his UFA year, and he knows what's about to happen to him. And I guess that kind of furthers your point, Jeff, which is that when Riley Smith's deal ends, if he has a decent season, they're going to rake him over the coals and try to get him to take a hometown deal. But they didn't do that with Max Pacioretty. They didn't do that with Paul Stastny. They didn't do that with Alex Pietrangelo. They didn't do that with Mark Stone. Do you have any idea, any reason why it seems like all the homegrown guys, and homegrown, I mean expansion draft, have to take haircuts? Pardon the pun, I don't have hair. And everyone else doesn't. They just, here's what you want. And no trade clauses. Sure, you can have one, unless you're Lehner.
A lot of those big contracts all have the same agent. So,
yes, they did, didn't they? A lot of the players that they've gotten have the same agent.
So that's an undercurrent as well that I've talked to former players that have said that. But here's the
What is
bottom
going
line.
on there? Explain
Here's
what
the bottom
that.
line. Here's
what's
what I
happening?
want to. Here's the bottom line, though. We've just gone on and railed for an awful long time. What happens when the team goes and wins a cup?
What are you talking about?
What happens when the team wins a cup?
Well, then we celebrate that they're the best most geniuses.
And but that's the gamble that has been willing to make.
They're 0 for 4 though in that gamble.
There's teams that went 0 for 40 for a long time.
Okay, well they're 0 for 21 if you take the general manager.
We'll keep kicking the can. We'll keep kicking the can. It will come due at some point.
Will it?
And that's where. No, I'm not talking about this Stanley Cup. I'm talking about you can only kick the can so long before it's hard to retain people. And now you've got people like San Jose. You got Brent Burns and Dilla and Carlson that are 30.
Who was their coach before when all this went down?
Well, they wanted to have Erik Karlsson instead of Joe Pavelski. That's what it came down to for a lot of dollars. And Joe Pavelski's been to a cup final since. So,
boy, that sounds like another position of very leadership-esque player on this team with the same coach. Now, I don't think they're going to have the same demise as that team is. I do think there will be an eventual demise, as you're saying, but I don't think it's coming today. But
they're still a
thanks, Jeff.
Man, and there's reason to be a fan because they're good.
Yeah, they're very good. And I think that Seattle is good. Like we'll get one more in. We'll go to Justin. Justin, what's up, buddy?
Guys, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Loud and clear.
All right. Thanks for having me. This first episode's been awesome. I gotta let you guys know it flowed so well, and I like the mix of the two different personalities, Ken covering fully and then Mike playing it. I think it went really well.
Cool.
Thank you. Kind of where you guys left off leads right into my main question is you guys kind of hit on the power play and it being more like we don't have the players to pull it off, or it kind of seems like it's all in that kind of camp, but not necessarily on the power play, but on just in general their play. How much does it fall on DeBoer's system? Because what I see a lot in kind of the way they ended last year and then they played last night, there's a couple points where they did get a little more in the front of the net and had a little more presence down there, but they kind of remind me a lot of the Sharks from the first couple of years we played them, where it's rotating around the boards and then shooting from the point with the defenseman and it gets blocked, and then it's a odd man rush the other way, and that's how we kept beating them. Carlson and Riley were down there getting shorthanded goals because of that. And so it's kind of like, I do agree with what you guys started with. I think that we're missing some of the players that, might have a little bit more of the talent, but I do think that system, it doesn't, seem anything like Gallant's. And I think that sometimes affects our guys a little bit, but I don't know. I wanted to get your guys'
Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think you've made some great points because it's, and perceptive ones, because really the core of the Vegas Golden Knights is that they're going to score on the rush, or they're just going to get it to the point and hope.
Yep.
That's how it works. And getting it to the point and hoping doesn't work in playoffs. And it doesn't really work that well in the regular season either. So they end up living on the rush. And I mean, they'll probably get some streaky moments this year with power play. Maybe it gets fixed. I think the power play has to get fixed. And I'm not sure how that happens at this point. But I played against this system for years, man. I knew every time I was playing a Sharks team, whether it was in the NHL or even the minors, it filtered down that I'm going to see a ton of shots from outside. And as long as my teammates take sticks in front and I can control my rebounds, I knew I was fine. Didn't matter. I knew they're going to throw pucks from everywhere. And it's predictable. And DeBoer's system it's demanding. Like, players will tell you, it takes a lot. You have to skate, you have to move, you have to be in the right place at times. And now they've added another wrinkle of trying to make reads in the neutral zone and jump pucks and go the other direction and basically have even more on-man rushes. I'd like to see them get really adept at getting zone time and making plays happen. And you look at Tampa.
It's that part. It's the second part. They can get the zone time. They just do nothing with it.
That's, look at Tampa. Yeah. That's right. Look at Tampa when the puck gets on Kucherov's stick. Amazing. Top end talent, absolutely. But you need that. That's why those guys are champions.
You have a $9.5 million player. You have an $8.5 million defenseman. You have a $5.7 million young defenseman that's gotten Norris votes. Like, you have players. You can't. I just don't think you could say, like, you need a Kucherov. Well, you have guys that are getting paid Kucherov money.
But what I'm talking about is that it's not just the player. I'm looking at utilizing that skill set best within a system to make it work. And that's where you've got to create routes. You've got to have a system in place where that a player is going to be funneling down towards the net that Stone can get it to them. And I do think that the predictability of this system has been the downfall for 2 years.
Yep.
I mean, the book is take the rush away, pack the middle, and we got them. And the bottom line is in the regular season, you can get away with it because you're playing against them, and you're playing against the Anaheim Ducks.
Yeah.
And San Jose, right? Like they're going to go out east. They're going to play Boston this year. They're going to play Tampa. They're going to play Carolina. They're going to play these teams that it's going to be a different ball game, you know? And that's
might be tomorrow.
And I don't have the answers to that, but everything you said is true. And that system is hard to play. And I've always wondered, like, what happens if it implodes? You know, I mean, it imploded on. Nobody thought it was going to implode in San Jose, and it did.
Yeah,
with that team. And
that was the I was talking about earlier.
Yeah, I don't think it will here. I'm also noticing a poster in your background from Cursive and wondering if that's a band.
It is a band.
Oh, I thought
that's what I thought. No, I know the band Cursive. I just wanted to make sure that's what it was. So
I thought it was just a writing style thing. Just hates normal handwriting.
Yeah. So I think that, you know, trying to just create more on the rush is tough. I think it's if they can find a way to improve their in zone offense, that to me is really the answer. And it's 5-5 and on the power play. And I think it is. I think if Pietrangelo is really given the reins, he can be to a key to it.
Yep. That's their answer right now. And because Dadonov is not the answer as much as they want him to be the answer, he's going to fall into the rush game just like everybody else because that's how they're going to try and play. I think the real answer, and as much as we'll get into it moving forward probably next week, with this little tweak and trying to kind of overload one side of the neutral zone to pick off passes and do these things. We'll get into that as we see a few more games moving forward. Actually, I think there's only one before next Wednesday, which stupid.
Crazy, isn't it? Yeah.
But whatever. But that, I think the bigger piece is there was a moment where there was a rush where you saw Pietrangelo and Martinez both with their skates in the blue paint. That's exciting if you're a Golden Knights fan, because that was never there in the past 4 years. It's never been there. Yes, they use the guys to rush. Yes, they liked quick ups, but they did not have activating defensemen. And if they're going to have zone time in the playoffs, that's the difference. It's not Dadonov. It's not Patrick. It has to be Pietrangelo.
And they got to be responsible about it.
Well,
because when you got Martinez and Pietrangelo down low, you're worrying.
But okay, so that brings me to another point, and like I don't want to go nuts about it today. We don't want to go too long here, but like you were talking about paying for $12 million in goalies, and I vehemently disagree with that. But whatever, they're not doing it anymore. They now have one legitimate high-end goalie. Like they have a legit top 10 goalie. To me, when you have a team built of strong defensive players, strong defensive forwards, I like risk. Let my goalie bail me out from time to time. Like, do you agree with that? I think they need to be riskier. I think they need to be more like take these chances and not worry about the responsibility all the time. Because if you do, you lose 2-1 to Carey Price, Anton Khudobin, and Thatcher Demko.
It makes me nervous because Robin's strength is in zone play with a strong team in front of him that he doesn't have to move laterally.
So they should have kept the other goalie.
So if you start,
is that what you're saying?
He's not there anymore. It's in the past. You can't say anything about that.
I'm forcing you to say it.
What you're saying, though, is that, Ken, you're saying that.
Damn it!
They need to take a bigger. They need to take more chances. And I'm just telling you, it really doesn't. They already gave up a decent amount. Like Fleury's goal saved above average last year was way high because they did give up catastrophic opportunities in the zone. They didn't give up as many on the rush as they had previously. It was more in zone catastrophic.
You're talking regular season or the playoffs?
Regular. So
yeah, and what did they do in the regular season? Best team in the league.
Right. I just don't think that translating more risk is going to be the successful way to do it.
Come on, spin the wheel.
Everybody at the net. You're a gambler, dude.
Let's go.
You want to go run that high wire, you trot them out there.
You have no idea how many NFT chickens I have.
Defense will win.
Gambling. That's been the calling card for 2 years. And what has won against them? The inability to score. They don't have the creative players to score. You have to play this game. I'm a huge fan of the decision to go more aggressive on the try to create these turnovers in the neutral zone. I think it's great. I think it's going to lead to a bunch more goals. I think it's going to lead to better games, but I think that's a different answer, and I think they have to come up with a different answer. I don't think this top 6 can hold, and you could just play the same style, and you're going to beat 4 teams in a row in the playoffs. I just don't think it's going to happen. I love that they're changing it up already, and I saw it. It was there last night. They scored 2 goals directly off it.
Yeah, Stone picks it off at the blue line and goes the other way.
Yeah, so, the other one was White Cloud. White Cloud hops up the boards at the red line, pops a pass in, and Haig read it immediately. It's a great play.
Well, you see how it plays, man. I'm not arguing for against, but they are doing things in direction to try to make it happen. And that's been one of the criticism is just stay the course, stay the course. Well, they have made alterations this summer. They have looked at what they need to do. We're also looking at one game. So let's revisit this and we're going to revisit it.
Sample size on me.
We're going to revisit it.
We have one game.
But it is going to be interesting to track this when we're looking 10, 20 games and see what is working and what they've decided, and just listening to the press conferences, that's your greatest way to find out, if they're sticking with something, because they don't tend to give you a lot, but you can get rid of this. So, yeah.
Well, thanks you to Chandler Stevenson for dropping that in a press conference in a preseason game, and then DeBoer actually being willing to expand on it a little bit. I think we would have figured it out anyway. You're seeing just that different style of how they're playing. I want to study it a lot more over the next. That's why I'm pumped. I'm going down to LA tomorrow to go to that game, because you need to see them in person. You don't get the same view on TV to be able to figure out systems and that type of stuff. So it'll be fun to get to watch that one. Well, this was a blast. This is Goalie Interference, brought to you by the Jimerson Law Firm. Look at this fancy little switcheroo on the graphic there. Thanks to the Jimerson Law Firm for doing this. Thanks, Mike, for show 1. We'll be back at it next week. You got any closing parting shots?
No, I just hope they keep winning so we can talk about. We can just dissect a winning team.
Oh, we need a little strife. We need a little. Last year sucked. I know they were the best team in the league for the entire regular season, but last year kind of sucked. I want some ups and downs. I want some. I don't know. I want more Morgan geeky stick twirls and anger, and that was great.
I agree. It was fun.
I want the head coach to call someone a clown. Let's go. So much more fun.
I'm going to wear a black hat next week. That's the answer.
There we go. I like it. All right. That's it. Thanks again to the Jimerson Law Firm. We will be back at this next week, Wednesday, 7 o'clock. See you.